Hello. How fun is this to be able to spend time together here on the You've Got Nurse series podcast? This is a place to explore practical ways to improve our health, which heightens our life experience. I invite you to join in with an open heart and an open mind to receive our guest today. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the You've Got Nurse series podcast. It's so much fun to be here. And I just love talking with people that are innovative. And I want to introduce you to my dear friend, Tabatha Barron. And Tabatha and my relationship is very interesting. We have never actually met face to face yet, but we will. And how fun is this? Tabatha Barron is a mother of two. She's an engineer. She is an innovator. And I want her to tell you all about what she has developed in keeping your kids safe. So Tabatha, let's just dive right in.
Awesome, Catherine. Thank you so much. This is awesome. And I love You Got Nurse. I think it is amazing, right? I love that. It's pretty cool. So thank you for that lovely introduction. So what I have done was, because of an incident that happened to our family, I created a platform that allows each child to effectively communicate their way home, as parents get real-time text messages during the dismissal process, inviting them into that school dismissal situation so that they can be a part of it and help their children navigate their end of day transit. Our program does work for all groups, which is walkers and bikers, your car riders, your childcare bus riders, and your yellow bus riders. So everybody gets accounted for at the end of the day. And all of the parents get to learn how their child is on their way to the next destination, free of any harm from nefarious behaviors. So that's what I've done. I actually just decided to do that because no parent should feel what we felt when our child goes missing at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. So yes, it'll be fun.
Well, what I really love about what you have developed is it's almost an analogy of how the partnership and the working together, the collaboration can be between the parents and the teachers, the child care providers, aftercare programs, whoever is in the mix in working with these kids, after school, whether they go home or they go to another facility or another destination other than home, right? And I think it's really important for people to be able to work together and for the benefit of these kids, because, oh my goodness, everything that we do is observed and absorbed by these children, right? And I think it's really important to be aware of that, because we're all broadcasting our energies and our opinions and, whatever vibration we're operating at, we're broadcasting that constantly. And these kids are very astute. And I think it's important to realize that everybody is it's almost like everybody is a role model for these kids as they're developing and growing up, because the clerk at the grocery store, the clerk at the drugstore, right? The bus driver, the teacher, the parents, right? We're all broadcasting, and these kids are soaking this all up. And fortunately, most of them are able to distinguish between behavior that they want to emulate and behavior that they do not. Sometimes it doesn't quite work out that way.
Nope, it doesn't. And I love this. First of all, I get it. You got nurse. This is safety. And this is us doing all of those things that are going to help these children, these families, and community members. And I love the fact you started there. I am a firm believer that parent number one is home. And that means that both parents can be in the home. But if you look at it from a higher level, you're looking at home being parent number one, at school being parent number two, and then the community around you, those friends that you invite into your space, the businesses that you spend a lot of your money with, and the time that you spend in your neighborhood. Those are your community members. Each one of them have a role to play in your life and your child's life. And I think that when we start to remember that and realize that we will invite those role models or those additional parent people into your lives. Because parent number one is that. Parent number two is the school. The community is a bonus parent. And some of us know about bonus parents all the time, right? Because when we have split households, we end up with one or both of the parents finding significant others that are not their originals, right? So those are bonus extras to a family. If we start looking at things like that, we start to pick the people around us that are going to be able to support those children and what they do and how they function and move and who they emulate. So I recognize that. So we'll say for Beyonce, Blue Ivy is on the road with her. She's literally performing with her. She's emulating her mom because she sees how much fun her mom is having. She sees the type of role model her mother is, and she actually wants to be very similar to what her mom has identified as being her superpower, right? So Blue Ivy is following in those footsteps, and you can tell by her, her performance and her the way her confidence when she comes to the stage. That's what we need to be providing to our children, because those type of role models don't have to be as big and bad as Beyonce, but it can be as big and bad as your neighborhood Walmart or store. But you have to make a decision on how you want your child, what things you want them to pick up so that they can take in their lives and utilize it later.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's fascinating because we do create our own environments, right? And for folks that are not familiar with Bruce Lipton and his work, his research on epigenetics, and obviously there are others that are studying that as well. But what's fascinating is that we do react to our environment, and it's our reaction to our environment that signals the genes, whether they get upregulated or downregulated. And when we're careful about who we allow in our circle, right? Yeah. Because I really think that everyone is a center of a circle of good, right? Yes. You're a center of a circle of good. I am a center of a circle of good. Everybody is a center. No one is the center, right? Right. Everybody has a center. And we also have it's not what we allow in, it's also we're a center of influence. And we may not be as big as Beyonce, as you say, but we're influencing as we go throughout the day constantly, one way or another. And all of our thoughts and actions and emotions are stimulating these chemical cocktail reactions within our body. And it's not just for the adults, it's happening with the children too. It's happening from, the day that we're born and we're here in this experience. And it's important to be able to realize that and know we don't have to know all of the specifics of how we operate, but I do believe it's really important for everyone to understand the basics of how we operate. And that's why I like what you have put together, because it's very simple, it's effective, and it's very uplifting.
Yes. It helps to support the child's independence. So we really do want to make sure that you're absolutely right. Everything that we emulate, a lot of what we emulate or show as an example, they will mirror as the example for themselves. So when we have chaotic dismissals and when we don't listen to children that says, hey, I'm either lost, or I'm confused, or something's wrong, then we actually help them to validate that they should not speak when out of turn and things like that. So our system allows for them to say, for me as a parent to say, I want to help build your confidence and independence. Mm-hmm. So we are going to going to work with the school with this system, KIC system. And that system is going to, that child doesn't know, send me alerts letting me know that child is making decisions that are in line with what we taught them to do when it came to dismissal. Mm-hmm. So whereas our system is not here to point the finger, oh, you did this. We're not doing that. What we're here to say is that, oops, this is happening. And wait, are you sure you want to allow this to continue to happen?
Right.
So Johnny shows up and he wants to go home with Mary. And he doesn't care what you said. And he don't care what mom said. Because mom said, you're not going home with Mary. You need to come home. But he says, Mary has cake and I want that cake. So I'm going home with Mary. So the school has a responsibility. And unfortunately, they sit in the middle. They're like you're pulling them both ways. The child wants to go that way, but they know that can't happen. But did the mom say that they could go that way? Did they make the necessary paperwork in the office for that? I don't know, but I have 400 other kids that I have to manage. And that's where it starts to get a little sticky. So then our alerts comes up and says, do you really want to send this student this direction? Then that adult now becomes responsible and accountable for sending that student in that direction. Because now you just helped him get Mary's cake. And that's fine if that's where mom wanted them to be. But it helped. But then the mom receives a message. So this is redundancy. The mom receives a message and says, hey, he's going home with Mary to get that cake. And mom can call school and says, please do not send my child home with Mary. I need them to come home. And so they can make the change right then. And then that way they can start a conversation at home that says, help me understand. I told you I was going to take you to Mary's house after you came home, but now you've decided to go this way. Let me help me understand why this is an issue and why this should not happen tomorrow. Right. Mm-hmm. And so this is what the whole entire goal was with building this. That's why it was meant to be so easy to use, because my mom does not like technology, by the way. She hates it. She feels she doesn't want to deal with that. But my mom uses the system because she found it very easy to use. And that is the ease of the system.
Mm-hmm. And communication. When communication is clear, it makes everything so much smoother, right? Yes. Because if I understand what you're talking about and you understand what I'm talking about, and the child is open and feels really good about voicing what it is that they want or asking for clarification. Mm-hmm. Yep. Because there's a myriad of unclear communication out there.
Very much so. That's how my niece got lost, right? Because when my mom says, this is the way you're going, and the school said, no, we're going to send you this direction, and we're not going to check in on, you're not going to check in with mom, right? And unfortunately, that had an adverse effect that still follows her today. Mm-hmm. And because it turns out it wasn't the first time that they said, no, you're listening to me, not anybody else. Mm-hmm. But it's how they're doing it that's not allowing the child, giving them confidence enough to advocate for themselves, which actually put them in more of a challenging situation and then starts to impact their mental health and worthiness. And those are all things that are extremely important to the health and well-being of every single child, because no child wants to feel like nobody's listening or that nobody even realizes that they exist. Mm-hmm. or they're even wanted around. And so this is a way to kind of help to resolve some of that.
Mm-hmm. Well, it is interesting because what is established as far as habits and patterns, in childhood, many of them we have to unlearn.
Yeah. Yes. I'm in a process right now. What? Clip. That's got to go.
Well, it's a bit like the never-ending story, right? Because I really believe that, yes, I really believe that self-development is not only a self-responsibility. I think it's a never-ending process, because there's always opportunities for improvement, and we're getting new information that's coming to us constantly. Things are always changing, and we're not meant to not change. And that's why I think it's really important for children to understand that they're part of the communication process. They're very much a part of the mix. They're part of the communication. They're part of the process. They're part of all of our, experiencing our beingness, right? And mm-hmm. I think it's really important to understand how we impact kids. And if we allowed them to impact us a little more, we would learn a lot from them.
Actually, okay, I'm going to challenge you a little bit on that last one, right? If
Mhm.
we allow them to impact us more, I don't think it's that. I think if we allow the impact to be more on us, I
Mhm.
think that would be a better phrase for that. The
Mhm.
reason why I say that is that children make an impact because we feel it. And then we're like, no, I don't want that. Right. I've seen it. There's just this thing when you get your kids, it's like Puss in Boots, right? When they look at you with the little sad little eyes and fill up with a little water, and you're just like, but I don't want you to go do that sleepover, right? So it's the fact that we're not allowing their impact to be more on us.
Mhm.
And I think and I feel like the one example I have is that I remember when I was younger and my mom says, "You guys don't know how to love." What? What do you mean by that? I hurt my feelings. I was like, but I love you, right? You guys don't know how to love. Now is not the time. Now I remember it was during this time where we're transitioning and we're going into puberty and we're got all kinds of things going on in our bodies, right? Where I found that deceptive was that children come out as a bundle of nerves and love. They have been sitting underneath our hearts for at least 7 months,
Yep.
right? And listening to the pitter patter of our drums, and that's our heart. And so they've learned, you have fed them, you have nurtured them, you have sung to them, read to them, and spoken to them. And so when they come out, they're looking for that voice, that one that they felt all overflow of love. So they know what it's like. And they coo at you and they smile at you and they want to love on you. And then somewhere along the line, you tell them that they don't know how to love. I'm sorry. I do not agree with that. I believe that they are the purest form of love, and we start stripping it away from them as they get older. And therefore, their impact on us should be more because we can learn much more from that innocence that exudes from them, that is here to show us light to where we're going, but we refuse to hear it, so we close the door on it. And that's why I find it very hard to kind of take some of that statement and be like, no, they're making an impact, we're just choosing not to let that be more in our lives.
Well, that's what I mean by that, allowing,
Oh,
right, allowing that to come in, because what's fascinating is kids are so authentic. People are
yes.
talking about, being authenticity, be authentic. Well, there's not much more authenticity than a child,
That is true.
right? And because we can learn an awful lot by listening to them. And that doesn't mean that the communication should not be a two-way street, right?
Yes. Correct.
Because hopefully by getting to the ages that we're at, that we've gained a little wisdom, right? So,
Yes. Peeking ahead here too, here there. Yes.
so I think that listening is a huge part of all of it. And I think it's important to realize that, and not to, and getting back to wanting them to feel confident in speaking up.
Yes. That's the
Because
part.
how many times have we bitten our tongues and go, oh, well, I don't think I should say that, or I don't think, the shoulds come in. And it's just like, wow, okay. Not that every thought that we think is true.
Right.
And we don't have to actually articulate every thought that we think.
Right.
But everybody has good ideas.
Yes.
Everybody has a perspective. We're all looking at things from our own perspective. And when you think about how many perspectives there are on the planet, our own perspective is not the only one.
And I believe that there are 359 other perspectives
Yes.
for every situation.
Yes, absolutely. Because we're living in a 360.
There you go. So you got it immediately. Because so it took me a while to figure that out, right? So my point of view wasn't the only vantage point, but it was the only one that I was privy to. So I made that law and put that flag there. But I learned over time that it wasn't that. There's 359 other vantage points from the same situation, and they can all pick up something slightly different.
Yes.
So some of the techniques that we use in some of our networking groups, when they're like, okay, so whose room were you in and what did you learn? Well, when you listen to what people learn in there, people are only learning the things that are resonating with them for what is now. The next time they come back, they may actually pick up something different. Mm-hmm. So it just depends on what you need at that moment and what you're able to glean from it. But the first part is you have to be willing to listen, and that means actively listening to the complete sentence and then developing your response or reaction to it.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's important too. That brings me back to the mindfulness piece of our experience when we cultivate that, right? Because the power is in the present moment. And when we are listening and we are present, oh my gosh, the information that can come to you, it's amazing, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree. Being present is very key, but I'm always very conflicted in that place.
Why so?
Because being present means being present in the moment says that we're supposed to enjoy where we are right now. Mm-hmm. So I think this is one of the things I struggle with some of the children too. But when do you start to look for the future or start to plan for what's to happen next? I think that's what I don't possibly understand. It's like the cart before the horse type of a thing. I'm unsure of how that's supposed to go.
Well, what's so interesting is that when we're in the present moment, we're actually moving up our vibration, right? We're if we allow ourselves to raise our vibration, that's where the opportunities and that's where the synchronicities start to come together. Because what's so fascinating is creativity and imagination are a large part of how we operate. Because when you think about the technology that allows us to be talking right now, right? That had to be recognized, and it's been, it keeps being developed because new information is available all the time, and we don't live in just one dimension. We're three-dimensional beings. So understanding about creativity, imagination, this pen was in somebody's imagination at some point, right? And so when you think about that, it's important to have a vision to give you some direction in how you want to manage and experience your present moments, because every moment builds one on top of the other. Our lives are one moment at a time, one moment at a time. And if we're not specific and we're not intentional in how we want to move forward, then it's very easy to be batted around by circumstances and this opinion from that direction and what's going on over there. I was out and about last night and I'm in an Uber and I'm going down the highway and it's just like, oh my gosh, there's a car on fire over there. Right? Yeah. Well, when you think about it, there are a lot of cars on fire everywhere, all around us. And so, as unfortunate as that situation is, it doesn't really have anything to do with me. Right? Mm-hmm. And so my strength comes from, okay, I'm safe, I'm present, I'm going home. And then, all right, what am I doing? What am I thinking about? And so I could be making up a whole story as to how that happened. but every moment that it's like watching the news, right? Every moment, I haven't watched the news in quite some time. I read headlines to see what I'm supposed to be doing to keep myself safe, right? And my family and whatnot. Because there's an awful lot of distraction in the news, right?
Yes, very much so.
And not all of it's true. And so getting all tangled up in that, every moment I'm giving to that, I'm taking away something that I could be creative about, something I can be doing to raise my vibration, where I can be a better role model, where I can be, when I can be more creative and put something out there that will actually help people and help myself, right? Because I believe that's why we're all here, to help each other. And what's fascinating is that when we get caught up in reliving the past all of the time, that's taking away from time that can be best spent developing ourselves. Because, like, how fun is this? I think self-development does not have to be a millstone. I think it's an adventure, and it actually can be very fun. And what's fascinating is the research shows that we think between 18,000 and 70,000 thoughts in one day, and 90% or so of those are the same as the day before and the day before and the day before. So when you think about so many people that are dragging all of the yesterdays along with them, it's well, who are they in there? And so we are who we are in the present moment, right?
That's a very good point. So I'm glad that I asked the question because, and I'm glad that the way you answered it, because what you're just sharing actually allows me to go back to the child being able to teach us, and that their impact should be more on us. And the reason why I say that is because, well, as you were talking and I'm listening and I'm paying attention to what you're saying, I can also see where a child is in the moment. If you punch them and they cry and they come and talk to you about it and then they go back in, they'll still go and play with the same little person that punched them. You know why? Because they're living in the present. They're not living in what happened in the past, and are not living at what potentially can happen in the future. They're living right now. Are you sorry? Yes or no? Yes. Okay, we can still be friends. Let's play. If you're no, then I can't talk to you until you apologize, type of a thing. But what it's saying is that child, that's why they are so creative. That's why they learn so well. That's why they do all of the things that they do, because they are currently living in the present, where their vibration is at a very high level, allowing them to continue to improve their well-being and health. And that is why they have the right to be more impactful on our lives, and we allow them to be more than what they are just here to do. And that is why I believe that they are our future. And we have to make a change and a difference in order for them to be able to say, I'm okay with carrying your baton to the next generation. But if you're not doing it right, I'm not okay with me carrying your baton to the next generation, because this is not the life that I want to pass on for others to have. And I think that's part of what we're missing. We assume that life will just continue to move on with or without us, which is absolutely correct. But carrying the baton from one person to one generation to another is a choice. And a lot of the children are responding to our bad behavior as adults and saying, our choice is not to carry your baton to the next generation. Our choice is to create a new baton and carry that to the next generation and leave yours right where it is. And that is a disservice in two different places. One, because our legacy is going to be left behind, and now there'll be a hiccup in that history line. And the other one is that, man, what did we do so wrong that they're just trying to erase us in the process of it, right? And all of this is us. I feel like all of this is us. And that is why keeping your kids safe is so, so, so much ingrained in the safety and well-being of each child beyond dismissal. It's not just about dismissal for us. It's the entire child, from top of head to bottom of feet. We need that child to be safe. That means internet. That means sex. That means rock and roll. That means it all. It's not just education. And it's not just home, it's everything that encompasses and will fill into that child. And we just have to be mindful of that. So I'm glad I asked that question because it actually helped. So it helped connect those dots. And I hope that in this conversation, those dots are also connected for other people, because I want my baton to be carried over into the next generation, because I believe my part in this, I did my work to get to a different level so that they can take that baton to the next generation and allow them to level up again. Yeah. Because if they did not, if I carried the same baton over from my parents, my kids and their children thereafter will not be able to level up.
Mm-hmm. It's fascinating, isn't it? And I think that extrapolating that out to arenas of understanding the basics of how we operate makes a huge difference in all the arenas.
Yes.
And I think it's important to understand that. So we're getting close to the end of our time. So I want to ask you, as I know that you have been on this self-development journey for years, as many of us have been, right? Now, what's one of the most valuable things that you have discovered that is the most useful for you? And obviously things change as we learn more and whatnot, but there are some of these little nuggets, these basic nuggets that we always come back to. So what would be one of those for you that you would, want to share that may be helpful for someone else?
This is great because it happens to be something you taught me. And it's, I have had to learn over the last few years to give myself grace. I have not been giving myself grace for anything I've done. I'm not the smartest person. I'm not the tallest person. Well, that's, just depends on who we're standing next to. But, I'm not the best at all of these things. But that's the story I was telling myself. But what is happening is that that's not necessarily true. And it's not a story that it resonates with me. I had to learn how to give myself grace in a way that allowed me to see that I was doing a lot of great things and I am smarter than I was giving myself credit for. And then I incorporated the one thing, which is I am water and I am just flowing. Part of that, so between the grace and learning how to be flowing, through all of this has helped me tremendously, especially when it came to anxiety and then some of my confidence. Because when it came down to it, my point is that I kept pushing the door and trying to figure out why I can't get around this door. I can't get around. Why am I struggling with these different things? But it turned out it was because I would say to people all the time, brute force doesn't always win. But I was using brute force to win some things that water was only going to solve. It was brute force was never going to solve what I was working to resolve. It was only meant for water to flow freely through the situation. And once I figured those two pieces out, it made everything so much better for me. And it has been a much better experience for the last, I want to say, since I've incorporated that, probably the last 6 months have been a lot better than it had been for at least a year prior.
That's wonderful. I'm just delighted, right? Because we all have breakthroughs. And it's just like, yes, it's a liberation, right?
Yes.
and let's us flow on to the next one, right? Yes. Which is so very fun. So your contact information will be put on a card to be inserted, but if you could verbalize that where people can find you, that would be fabulous.
Cool. So you can always find me on LinkedIn. So my name spelled with all the A's. I have all the A's. Abatha. So you'll be able to find me on LinkedIn. And you can also send me an email. So info@kyksfirst.com. Oh, by the way,
that's right
there. Yeah. So hang out right here at this website. You can come find me there too and send me a contact us and I'll reach back out. This has been awesome, Catherine. Thank you so much for having me here.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you. Thank you for your time and coming and having fun with me today. So yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much, and we'll talk again soon.
Hey, yes, you too. I can't wait to talk to you again. And let me tell you something. Anybody who does not know Catherine should know Catherine and
Oh,
should connect with Catherine, period. I just don't know. Your life is so much better with Catherine in it. My life is anyway.
well, thank you for those kind words. Oh my goodness. Thank you. All right. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining in today on the You've Got Nurse Series podcast. I appreciate your time, as our time is our most precious commodity. We never get the time back. Using our time intentionally and with purpose makes a difference. Kindly like and share if you find this content helpful. I invite you to explore a bit more of the work, which you can find on my websites of you'vegotnurse.org and theartofselfcraftsmanship.org. It will be my pleasure to hear from you with any questions you may have. Take good care of you and your ultimate mind diet in the meantime.